So this is when it is starting, isn't it? I thought it had started before, but this is. So what the morning scar is saying is that Dirty Die has become a campaigner against poverty. Well, Dirty Die is not a campaigner against poverty, never has been. And anyone who has been closely examining and following the comments that I published about her since we started broadcasting the Khoodeelaar television channel in 2020, anyone who has been studying that would know that I consider, based on the world exclusive evidence that I have cited and I have been citing about Diane Darty, that she is a liar, she is an opportunist, selfish, and she is a mental slave. And that she is a mental slave, willingly enslaved to the likes of Ken Livingston Livingston. And of course, given the publication by the Daily Mail Group in 2015 or 16, when Jeremy the connection with Jeremy Corbyn. Here is a tweet from ITV News on their Facebook account immediately after the Grenfell Tower massacre. And their heading in that particular tweet on their Facebook account reads, "The Labour MP blamed the disaster on the Tories, saying they treat social housing residents as second-class citizens." And there are various comments in apparent reply to about. And one, seriously, it's from Debbie Cooper. "You are all to blame. Labour were in power for 10 years, plenty of time to right the wrongs, but instead blame current government. This woman shouldn't be able to make these throwaway comments. Isn't going to help the people who died." And then somebody in bar. And somebody else comments, Gavin Bar. Her hundreds, that is, horse hundreds, could in reality be anything. She's not that good with numbers. And another one, Lee Clive Williams, says she is mentally ill. Plus, how long have those towers been standing? How many Labour governments have there been? Therefore, someone please book this woman into hospital. And then there is another one, Jeff Dugmore, with an image of a dog. It was Labour who introduced the regulatory reform fire safety order in 2005, no longer making the fire service for inspecting buildings and issuing fire certificates. Instead, it allowed landlords to carry out their own fire risk assessment and cut costs. There's another one, Keith Taylor, who is saying, why is anyone giving this obviously mentally disturbed woman a mouthpiece? Her lunatic rantings are not only insulting to the victims of the Grenfell fire, but bear, this is a spelling mistake, B-A-R-E, bear no relation to actual facts. For her own good, Corbyn should have her sectioned. And Ian Townsend says, Diane Abbott is one of the most divisive MPs there is. MPs. There is rich versus poor, black versus white. She stirs up hatred. The rich don't want to see the poor suffer, and most whites don't want to see black and Asian people suffer. She would like to see the opposite. She is a disgrace. All of these are only parts of the many Twitter, Facebook items in the immediate aftermath of the massacre of the people in Grenfell Tower in 2017. And there is no relationship between these people's comments and the actual role played by the local councils, by the elected councillors, and the actual complaints that people made many years before the massacre about the risk of fire, etc., etc. So they can say that Diane Abbott is mentally ill, but if that is the case, then what is their mental state? Are they mentally well? Because they are completely prejudiced against the facts, evidence, and they are not concerned about the actual massacred victims. They are more concerned about hating Diane Abbott. All right, so let's check. So when Theresa May is quoted as saying she says, I have no idea why Trump held my hand. I'm capable of walking down a slope. Thank you very much. Now, what Theresa May could have done at the time as Trump grabbed hold of her hand to tell Trump within record of the cameras, move your hand, Mr. President or Donald. Or she could have looked at him in a way that the camera could capture. of her being offended by him holding her hand. The other things that we said in the broadcast, we shall be commenting on, is that in that article, this is an article by for Theresa May. Let's go to see the actual author of this promotional piece. It looks like that Theresa May's mother was either an Arab or an Iranian. So it's Caroline Wheeler, who is the Sunday Times political editor or chief political reporter. 4 years and 3 prime ministers since she left Downing Street. Theresa May has written a book and loosened up a bit. She tells Caroline Wheeler why she will never stop biting back from the backbenches. And the main highlight is my voice cracked when I left number 10 Downing Street. I was really annoyed at myself. And so the main copy starts on page 18, page 19, page 20, page 28, page 29, page 30, page 31, page 32, up to page 33. And there is a plug for the book, which is Abuse of Power. Well, The Abuse of Power by Theresa May. Read an exclusive extract in the Times tomorrow. To order a copy, go to the Times bookshop.co.uk or call 0203 176 2935. Free UK standard post and packing on orders over £25. Theresa May will be in conversation with Richard Coles at Queen Elizabeth Hall, South Bank Centre, London South East 1 on September the 14th. There is a limited allocation of tickets for Times Plus members. To enter the ballot for a chance to attend in person, visit mytimesplus.co.uk/events. And there is this highlight. For May, Grenfell was a manifestation of the burning injustices she had vowed to correct. May was lent a pair of leather trousers for a Sunday Times Magazine photo shoot in 2016. Above right, May's husband, Philip, receives his knighthood in 2021. From left, the fire at Grenfell Tower claimed 72 lives, including those of 18 children. Demal Carayol, an artist who lost family members in the tragedy, presents May with a print of his work, Grenfell Tower. Eyesore. Final straw. Now, what actually has happened, and I need to emphasize this, there is no trace anywhere in any published kind of platform or a content or copy about Grenfell Tower being called a massacre. And I maintain, and I have maintained from the very beginning, that this was a massacre. If you look at the architecture of the building, And if you look at the space, it's an isolated building surrounded by huge space, literally, which means that even an aircraft, military aircraft, big numbers of highly powerful military helicopters could have come with enough water and poured the water all over the building from all four sides. And that could have saved lives, any number of lives. And they didn't do that, number one. Secondly, they have not been asking the question as to why the helicopters, aircraft were not scrambled. They can do all kinds of inquiries, but if they willfully refuse to ask the obvious question, then the question arises, why are they not asking that question? Why are they not raising that question? What other incident like that in any urban city anywhere in the world where the main building was perfectly isolated from all the other buildings, leaving space for aircraft to be flown with water? And there is no reference to any similar event. That is extraordinary. Architecturally extraordinary, engineeringly extraordinary. So, why did nobody raise that question then? And why has nobody raised that question since? And there have been all kind of expressions of sympathy for the or alleged sympathy for the victims of the massacre. Well, they don't call it massacre, of course. This is a word that I'm using, I have been using. Nobody else? Just to make sure that I remain the only one saying it. Let's check. Well, there is this reference to massacre, but this is the first time I'm looking at it. And this is dated, this item is dated the 2021. Report on the Grenfell Tower massacre. Let's check who published this report. So it is talking about a 1,000-page report, and we shall be looking at the 1,000-page report soon. This is dated the 8th of May 2021. Report on the Grenfell Tower massacre, poor safety regulations, unprepared firefighters. So if you look at the pictures, even as printed, you can see that water could be poured on all sides of the building and the fire would have been out. Well, this so called report is apparently by the Fire Brigades Union. And the London Fire Brigade is the one that is among those responsible for the massacre. Did they racistly decide to let the massacre continue? This piece says, according to former Supreme Court Justice, now retired Moore Beek, the preparation and planning to face a stake like Grenfell's on the part of the London Fire Brigade, it is far less than expected, and the staff did not have the proper training to handle a large scale incident with a large number of the coals. The investigation points the finger at the leaders of the London Fire Brigade, accused of indifference and of putting the institution itself at risk for their inability to admit their mistakes and to learn the lesson from what happened. I completely disagree. It's not inability, it's their refusal to admit their mistakes. Ability, inability, and refusal is the difference is completely unfathomably big. Now, the Spanish FA president kissed Spain World Cup winner Jenny Hermoso on the lips immediately after their final win over England. Now, FIFA have suspended this individual. There is huge propaganda for Holy Willowy. There is huge propaganda for her, as well as huge propaganda for Phyllis Schofield. Now, body language experts that happened as a reflex, or what is the explanation? Now, the promotion of Hollywood is done by using words and phrases in a way that suggests that somebody has accused her of doing something wrong or something. Now, nobody has said anything that has questioned Hollywood's honesty or integrity or whatever. So, why are they running the headline, not only in the Scum but in the Mirror group as well? She's not holding anything back. Who had suggested that she was holding anything back? So, the Scum on Sunday on the front page has got this big picture of Holly Willoughby flashing a big smile with the promotion Holly's texts in clear over Scofield probe. Now, what is the sentence supposed to mean? They must have made a mistake. It must be text in clear about what? So let's see what they are meaning. And they're saying nothing to hide. What do they mean by nothing to hide? Who is saying that she is hiding anything? Holly Willoughby has nothing to hide. It's an exclusive allegedly by Ellie Henman. Holly Willoughby has nothing to hide and fully complied with the probe, that is the investigation into her former television co-host Philip Schofield. Sources said yesterday. Now, what is the point of this stupid item at all? So complete and utter rubbish promotion for Holly Willoughby. Why do they keep promoting this individual? I'll come to that question because in the kind of permanent fixture describing the ITV program this week, all the free street papers, well, the Daily Mail, the Daily Mirror, and of course the Daily Express go over the top in promoting it. But it is not something as a current affairs factual program that has broken any stories ever. So why do they keep promoting it? And why do they keep promoting Holly Willoughby? And why do they keep promoting Philip Schofield as well? Because Schofield is not caught lying for the first time. Schofield lied for 27 years or so while he pretended to be married to his wife as well as having two daughters with her while he was actually having homosexual relationships with nobody knows how many people. In the Scum on Sunday, there is this Tony Parsons. Tony Parsons is a racist criminal who claims to be from the so called working class, but is completely contemptuous of the rights of ordinary people and has not done anything in his prostitute role that is paid for by Rupert DirtyDigging Murdoch for explaining the institutional permanent causes of poverty in this country. So this one about Nigel Farage, this one is about Nigel Farage and the banking. The banking elite are a bit different to the rest of us. They get lavishly rewarded for failure. Now, he says banking elite. Now, let's go back to the actual banking criminality away from nasty Nigel Farage. So there is a piece. This one is from the Parliament website, and it is dated. It doesn't give a date yet. I'll come to that bit. So they published on 13th of May 2019. So let's go to increasing financial inclusion, basic bank accounts. The FCA has published research estimating that 1.3 million UK adults are unbanked, meaning they do not have a bank account. The committee took evidence to understand whether those who are unbanked experience any preventable barriers to opening a bank account. In written evidence to the committee, the FCA highlighted potential barriers to consumers having access to a bank account. Consumers may have difficulty proving their identity, for example, those with no permanent address or who move often, those who do not have a passport or driving license or UK paper utility bills in their name. A third of unbanked people have had a bank account before and do not want one, for example, because they have got into difficulty with an overdraft. There are consumers who may need help to open an account, for example, those who are illiterate. Since September 2016, under the EU Payment Acceptance Accounts Directive, all UK banks have had an obligation to consider applications for a payment account by any EU consumer equally and without discrimination. Where other accounts are unsuitable, including for those currently excluded from mainstream banking, a basic bank account will be provided, etc., etc. So, this is absolutely the opposite of what Tony Parsons is saying. Tony Parsons is saying the banking elite are a bit different to the rest of us. What does he mean by rest of us? Who is he including and in the rest of us? They get lavishly rewarded for failure. If you or I get the boot from our day job, it is unlikely we would feel like we just got seven balls up on Euro billions. But Dame Alison Rose below the NatWest was forced to quit over the Nigel Farage banking scandal. This is a lie. It's not Nigel Farage banking scandal. It was about the data breach about Nigel Farage's data and so on. And so nobody knows, and he would not disclose it himself, how much Tony Parsons is paid by Rupert Murdoch. And then there is this item about pension pot of 1.8 million and his own pool. This is about the former hospital boss in charge when Lucy Letby murdered seven babies. He has retired to an idyllic French home, complete with its own pool. Medical director Ian Harvey quit the United Kingdom after leaving his job with a 1.8 million pension pot in August 2018, less than a month after the suspected neonatal nurse was arrested. He moved into a farmhouse with extensive outbuildings, etc., etc., etc. So, what this shows is that there is no audit, there is no accountability anywhere in the United Kingdom. There is this other one about the old woman, 65-year-old woman, being described as Lou, who says, I steal posh shop goods to order for my rich clients. She said she has got 60 clients who order posh goods for her to steal and buy the stolen goods from her. And there is no sign of why is she not being arrested. So, what is Karan Brady saying about India? Well, it's a piece that is published in her name, but who wrote this one or who writes most of our stuff is not explained. But let's read the first few paragraphs on this one. India has landed on the moon and is full of billionaires. Why do we need aid? It's one small step for man, but a giant leap for India. In a mind bogglingly impressive achievement, we have now become the first country to land on the moon's south pole. Just one question before we hail this historic triumph. What kind of success is it to have a space program costing tens of millions of pounds when the World Bank says 163 million Indians do not have access to safe drinking water and 210 million are living without improved sanitation? There is no doubt that India isn't quite the downtrodden developing country it once was. Its space triumph came hot on the heels of Russia's duff attempt last week when Russia's spacecraft spun out of control and smashed into the lunar surface. But for all its wealth and art achievements, India is still a country with chronic and widespread poverty. Indeed. So, why is it that the British press don't report on India's poverty? Around 230 million Indians are still living in poverty, according to the latest UN data, which is the largest number of poor people in a single country ever. Millions of Indians face a daily struggle to survive, with an astonishing 84% of the country's population of nearly 1.3 billion living on less than 5.43 per day, according to figures from 2019. Yes, there is great wealth in India, as it is evidenced by its booming number of billionaires and the moon landing. Unsurprisingly, the Indian government to boost investment in private space launches and related satellite based businesses. As Prime Minister Narendra Modi insisted, the sky is not the limit. But according to Oxfam, the top 10% of the Indian population now holds 77% of the total national wealth, and it would take 941 years for a minimum wage worker in rural India to earn what the top paid executive at a leading Indian garment company earns in a year. So while India makes a big show of its billionaires, tech bros, and for others, life is very hard indeed. CNN reported that almost 75% of Indians face hard lives of manual labor in villages, while a third of the population is illiterate. So, with all that in mind, I really think the vast sums involved in the country's moon landing could surely have been better spent elsewhere. This is not written by Karan Brady at all. This is too rigorous, even for the scum. And it's saying, so with all that in mind, I really think the vast sums involved in the country's moon landing could surely have been better spent elsewhere. And if saying that makes me sound like I have an axe to grind, I do. Because we, the UK taxpayers, gave an estimated 2.3 billion of aid to India between 2016 and 2021. If the Indian government prefers to spend cash on outer space rather than solving poverty, shouldn't we stop giving them so much aid and spend it on our own struggling population instead? Well, that is a very appropriately written piece. The question is, why doesn't the scum publish more items like that? So, where are we going now? The situation here is desperate. That's the Diane Abbott piece. And Diane Abbott was, she's described as MP for Hackney North and Stoke Newington. It doesn't say who, for on behalf of which party she is an MP. Okay, so Diane Abbott's piece in the last two paragraphs. A little humility is needed. Every poor country which has developed significantly over the last 50 years began much poorer than this country is now. None of them achieved improvement by attacking their own poor. Instead, development means what it says: developing skills, infrastructure, education, public service, housing, and transport, and taxing big business and borrowing for us for as much investment as you can find it. Now, here there is a picture with the article, and it is captioned End Austerity. Diane Abbott joins PCS's Mark Sarwotka on an anti-cuts demonstration in London in 2017. Now, Mark Sarwotka of the PCS, it's a civil service trade union, is a liar. Sarwotka has got members involved in punishing the poorest claimants that are among the people that have been pushed to their suicides by the deprivation Want and Poverty Creation Program Department, in other words, DWP, and Sarvatka's union never, ever any connection between the civil servants and the impact on the lives and the deaths of the people who depend on the decisions made by the DWP and other departments. Let's check what Sarotka features in relation to DWP. Now, this is an 8-year-old story which says civil servants used fake studies saying benefit sanctions helped claimants in their search for work. Bosses at the DWP have admitted faking case studies in which benefit claimants preferred, I'll read that again. Bosses at the of Work and Pensions, well, it's not Department of Work, it's actually Department for Work, that is the full official. So the bosses at the DWP have admitted taking case studies. Now read that again. Bosses at the DWP have admitted faking case studies in which benefit claimants pretend they are happy to be sanctioned. The bizarre admission was made after the department was challenged over a guidance brochure in which two case studies featuring two claimants say how the sanction system was keeping them motivated to find work. The leaflet included pictures of Sarah and Zach, who were presented as sickness benefit claimants who had some of their benefits withdrawn or had been threatened with benefit removal. The lie was exposed after a Freedom of Information request asked for the names of the case studies and whether they were real benefit claimants. Civil servants admitted the bogus claimants were used for illustrative purposes only, although they were based on real stories told to job center advisors. The DWP has had to endure a tidal wave of criticism and mockery on social media, as well as a deluge of condemnation by politicians, charities, campaigners, and trade unions. Now, this was 8 years ago, so it's in the past tense. Jeremy Corbyn, who is tipped to become the new Labour Party leader, well, this is written in an ungrammatical way. Said the fact that the DWP has to make up quotes from benefit claimants saying sanctions are helping them, presumably because they can't find anyone who says they are, not only shows how out of touch the Tories are, but also the effects their ideologically driven policies are having on people's lives. Now I'm looking for Mark Servetka. Let's check if there is any mention of Servetka on this article. So Servetka is quoted in this one as saying that it is disgraceful and sinister that the DWP has been trying to trick people into believing claimants are happy to have their benefits stopped or threatened. Sanctions are unnecessarily punitive and counterproductive and should be scrapped. Mancap, the disability charity, said the case studies present an unrepresentative view of the sanctions regime and its impact on disabled people. A spokesman said benefits are a lifeline to many people with with learning disability who rely on them to make ends meet. The DWP said the case studies were used for illustrative purposes to help people understand how the benefit system works. They're based on conversations our staff have had with claimants. They have now been removed to avoid confusion. So this is a piece dated August 2015. And this includes an item calling for Ian Duncan Smith to resign. Now, the item about the London police being hacked by hackers is indeed this is the item. Is it going to show on the camera? Well, this is a very rare piece on the Guardian website, which says that the Metropolitan Police will tell the police to arrest landlords who illegally threaten to evict tenants. This has been overdue for a very long time, and this is something that actually relates to the conspiracy between the Tower Hamlets Council, the Tower Hamlets Community Housing, that has been in existence for a very long time to artificially create rent arrears so that tenants who are eligible to housing benefit can be denied housing benefit, and therefore can be trapped in artificially created rent arrears, which can then be used to start proceedings to take action against them, including eviction. Now, this is more than 10 years since I asked the question about Hamlets community housing on the 26th of June 2013 at the Hamlets Council full council meeting, so called. Remember, this is the part of the meeting that was so sensitive. The question that I put was so sensitive that the entire sitting of the meeting was suspended by the chair of the meeting, Leslie Pevitt, who turned out later, not on that day, but few weeks later, as being a co-conspirator with the racist criminal Mike Tyrrell of the Towners Community Housing. So this is the agenda item as published and accessible on the Townless Council website at this date, the date being Sunday, the 27th of August 2023. But this one is about Wednesday, the full meeting of the council, Wednesday, the 26th of June 2013. And this is a decision reference to my question from Mr. Muhammad Haque regarding arrangements for auditing and overseeing the conduct of bodies now responsible for formerly council owned and council controlled housing stock. So this one has got a on the record now. Who wrote this is not clear, but obviously somebody is lying there in the name of Rabina, liar Rabina Khan. And it says the council transferred over 10,000 properties to 8 registered providers under the Housing Choice Program. This was to lever 448 million pounds worth of investment into the stock. Promises made under the Housing Choice Program were included in contracts as obligations which are monitored twice annually by the Strategic Housing Team. The Council is currently collecting information on progress made up until the end of 2012 to 2013 financial year. A number of registered providers have reported that they have completed the contractual obligations. Officers are now establishing an audit process in order to satisfy the council that the program are indeed complete. And this liar Rabina Khan says, as cabinet member for housing, I work very closely with tenants to ensure democratic accountability. Registered providers, for example, this liar has to be prosecuted. This fucking lying cunt. Now, it says that during the consideration of public question 6.1, that is my question, the speaker adjourned the meeting at 8:25, reconvening at 8:41 p.m. due to disruption in the public gallery. Now, that is a lie. There was no disruption in the public gallery. Then it says the speaker reminded all present that no unauthorized recording of filming was permitted in the meeting without her express permission. Well, if anyone was recording, that did not in itself constitute disruption. And they have not identified who disrupted what part of what proceeding. The only person that actually was seen recording the proceedings when Rabina Khan was standing, answering, supposedly answering, of course, falsely answering my question. It was a man called John White who was doing the filming. So let's check. So this is the video that so this is the transcript of the video that has been online since I recorded it on the day during the actual suspension of the meeting by Leslie Pavitt. The John White, who is an idiot, when he says that I didn't know about the access to data of the THCH. He says, maybe you don't know, he tells me. Fuck off. Maybe I don't know. The fuck? I have been knowing this fucking law for decades, you fucking shit. And to say that to me is the stupidest thing. He says, maybe you don't know. You have a right to put a freedom of information request into your government. You have a right to put a bereavement information request into your council. But you don't have a right to put in a freedom information request to your landlord. Fuck you. Anyway, this is the John Shit White. So what Rabina Khan did was that she admitted, She admitted being a mental slave in that she rushed, physically rushed, in response to a call from John White. She physically rushed to meet him and she told him in public at the meeting, in the council meeting, that she did that. There is absolutely no evidence that Rabina Khan even acknowledged any of the hundreds of communications sent to her. Hundreds of communications sent to her by me. So these criminals will have to be held to account. So we are coming to an end to this one at 1 hour, 31 minutes on the tape. That is probably about 2 hours. So let's finish this one at 17:21 hours on Sunday.